All right, and welcome to another episode of the Political Playbook. I'm Wyatt, and this is my co-host Darren. And today we've got a jam-packed docket for you guys. I think we're going to start off with there is great news if you're an American, and even better news if you're a Catholic. We have an American Pope. Praise be. Pope Leo XIV, born in Chicago in 1955. He's pretty much been all over the world, mostly in Europe and Latin America. He's been in Peru since the 80s, so this is, rather new about, like we've never really had a Latin American pope or an American pope, so like everyone kind of wins here, right? So
hmm
Darren, what is your first impression of Pope Leo? Like, do you know anything? Do you have any insights? Do you know how Catholics at large are taking him in? Like, what are your thoughts?
I know very little about him, and and I follow the Vatican type, Catholic type stuff pretty loosely, anyways. So, I really only know like I can only recognize the really big names over here in the U.S. and then like some abroad. So I honestly have never even heard of the dude until recently. So he
Right.
was a bit of a dark horse. I'm very proud that he's from the U.S. I like that a lot. I'm very proud of that. Even if maybe he's not the perfect ideal one I would have picked. Uh, you know, he for me. But I do think he is a good one. I think honestly he probably reflects what the faith is most accurately
Yes.
because from what I've seen, he doesn't seem to be near as liberal as Pope Francis, even though he might be considered a progressive-ish, according to the standards of the church. So I do like that they're taking a bit of a step back, if not a full blown retreat. And then I do like he's more conservative and a little more staunch on certain issues. It seems in regard to homosexuality and stuff, he seems to be a little more traditional in his tone. So I
Yes.
do appreciate that, and honestly, like he. I mean, I think that's this guy is probably the best reflection of what the faith really is. I mean, the basically like pro humane treatment of immigrants, yada yada, anti homosexuality, yada yada. I mean that's probably the perfect middle ground of where the Pope ought to be, based on my understanding of the church. But how about you? What do you feel about this guy relative to Pope Francis? Is he kind of what you were wanting?
Yes, I think this is exactly what the church needed. So, I think Leo has a pretty unique job here, right? He's trying to kind of bridge the gap between like, the conservative hardliners and the progressive cardinals within the faith, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
there are a couple of different factions based on a bunch of different issues. So you have people who are trying to, express like love and compassion, but also at, not sacrificing doctrine or like, so it's an impossible job. I mean, being a pope, I mean, you and I can't imagine how hard of a job that is, right? I mean, you have to be, think about it. You have to be a president, right? Essentially, you have to be a diplomat. You're the spiritual leader of a billion people, right? And then you're a Fortune 500 CEO also. Like the
Oh yeah.
administrative, like you have to be a living saint for goodness sake. You know what I mean? Like this is an unbelievable ask, right? And I think that, they picked a guy that's going to do whatever he can to meet that standard, right? And I think he's the perfect guy to kind of bridge that gap, like you said, between those, conservative hardliners. Like, for example, he's against women taking up any form of like clerical um, position within the church, right?
Oh yeah, and
And
that's
you,
just Catholic doctrine. I mean, all these people, all these like outside commentators saying, "Oh, Pope Francis didn't let there be women priests." It's like, well, if he did, he would have been a heretic because it's like explicit that that can never happen.
yes,
And
and this guy, by the way, is about as understanding of Catholic doctrine as you can get. He has a doctorate in canon law, like Catholic canon. Like
oh
this
wow,
in terms of like understanding what Catholic doctrine means, not just for when it was written, but like what it means like after all the, councils revisited it. Like what does it mean to be a modern Catholic? I mean, this guy, I mean, it doesn't get much more like researched and well read than this guy. So, I think that's where you get a bunch of the the focuses on justice and stuff like that, but also like we're not sacrificing like eternal doctrine from their perspective, right? Like he's against like gender ideology as another example, you know, like
oh yeah, yeah.
um, but
And
also like oh, go ahead, sorry.
oh well, and you know, I would imagine, if Pope Francis were pressed or something, he probably would be against that too. I just don't have any recollection of him coming out and saying it in explicit terms. So it is good that we have kind of a I guess the Catholics have a champion for the more modern issues. So I'm a fan thus far. I think he'll be a pretty good, accurate representation of the faith.
Yeah, I think so too. And as I start and continue my journey to becoming Catholic, I am very very excited. But like you said, these commentators that have been weighing in on this guy, I mean, it doesn't take long for these people to start quote mining, searching through all the different avenues of the internet to find any tweet this guy ever retweeted, any post he ever made, any homily he ever gave. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that this dude is going to be liked by everybody. I mean, for everything. I mean, like I said, it's an impossible standard to uphold. But I think overall, I mean, he kind of upholds what it means to be, a loving, compassionate Catholic. You know?
I think so too. And he I like that in speaking of like quote mining, they're like digging through all the stuff he's ever said and done. People were going through his Twitter, and I guess he quote tweeted JD Vance and said that he was wrong, on the whole Ordo Amoris debacle
Right, right.
of a few months ago. So and the fact that he's willing to dunk on JD Vance, that's a win in my book.
Well, and he definitely dunked on Trump immigration in the first term. He said something. Well, he retweeted something along the lines of, is your conscience not concerned? Like that's what he said about Trump. And honestly, I would say that he might be on kind of a kind of a crash line, like a crash path with the American Protestants and the American right, just because the dude is not going to back down from Catholic teaching on like human dignity and respect for the foreigner. Like he's just not. At least not in anything we've seen so far. I mean, that may change, but like this dude doesn't get more pro foreigner, like pro human. He's pro DACA. Like I mean, what more can you ask for? You know?
Yeah, I like that about him. I like because he's not. I don't. He's obvious. I've already seen the left wingers get mad that it wasn't. That Filipino guy, Tagle, or one
Right.
of the African cardinals. And I think that's about where the Pope should be. I don't think he should appeal far too much to any partisans. I think he should be, beyond that. And I think the morality he professes, to make, if it's going to be profound, it shouldn't, line itself up with being a Republican or being a Democrat. It should be kind of like beyond that.
No,
So
and I think that, do you think that he hits that standard? Because I think that's what you said is 100% what he beats. He's kind of above the fray a little bit. At least it seems to me.
that's definitely the impression I'm getting thus far. Well, time will tell, but if it kind of stays how I think it is going, then I think he'll definitely hit that sweet spot of where he needs to be. So I'm very optimistic about this guy.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to put a label on him, I mean, this guy seems like, because people are trying to call him like the woke pope, and I don't really see I don't see any evidence for any of that. But I do see, like, if anything, I feel like this guy is just a never Trump Republican pope. Like he's one of these like moderate, left wing, right wing on certain issues, pope. And I think that's, like you said, that's kind of where he needs to be whenever you're going to be leading 1 billion people, you know?
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's like worldwide considerations he has to, take into account, and so I'm hoping actually that he won't be, even as an American pope. I hope he won't be too focused on America. I hope he feels like a globally oriented, even though we are the superpower and like probably the most relevant country. I hopefully he does take a global approach.
Me as well. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see. Well,